Hey folks, happy Friday. We here at AFWERX are excited to give you another week of an AMA. Ask Me Anything. I'm your host, if you will. Ryan Erickson, I go by Leaf. I'm the Director of Operations for AFWERX. We've got on the line the leads from the different efforts along with the contracting officer. So Zoe, I'd like to turn it over to you for an intro. If you could pass the mic off to Jimmy. I got to make sure my mic is not muted.
Sure, thanks, Leaf. So I'm Zoe Walters, the CIBR Phase 1 PM for this effort and for AFWERX currently. Jimmy?
Hey, how's it going? Jimmy Colerain out here in San Francisco, and I am the Direct to Phase 2 lead. Over to Jared.
Hey everyone, my name is Jared Evans. I'm the Phase 1 and Phase 2 lead for the Small Business Technology Transfer Program, STTR, working with companies and universities.
And then on the line, folks, we also have our lead contracting officer for this solicitation. Chris, would you mind saying hi to them?
Hi, everybody. Actually, I'm the lead contracting officer for every solicitation, so I'm special. No, I'm just kidding.
I stand corrected. Hey, folks, we have these AMAs, our Ask Me Anythings. This is the third iteration that we've done for this specific topic. And we have realized as a team, we spend a lot of time conveying information to you that we feel like you're interested in and you want to know more about. And then we actually spend less time answering questions that you are asking. So the purpose of this call today is to get to those questions. So you've got all the appropriate subject matter experts on the line to answer those. So feel free, go ahead and start posting your questions in the chat, and we'll start answering here in a second. Real quick, just some rules of engagement. You know, we're in the military. We always throw out rules of engagement before we start an operation. So for today, keep in mind this call is recorded, including the questions you ask, no classified or proprietary information. Post your questions in the chat portion within YouTube, and we can all see them, and we'll respond as best we can. Keep it clean, folks, and specific for this 21.1 or 21.alpha solicitation. All right, you've been introduced to the leads. Here's their names up here. If you need to get a hold of anybody, it's pretty much first name dot last name at afwerx.af.mil minus Chris Croak. If you need to get in touch with her, just email any of the other three and we can reach out to her. If you get lost in the sauce today or trying to determine what was said in previous AMAs, if you just get lost in general about this specific topic, the best place you can do is just go to afwerx.af.mil, click on AFWERX for Industry, scroll down to CIBR Open Topics or CIDR Open Topics. Square one is right there for you, and any vectors you need to go after that, we've got it queued up for you. And then if you want the in-depth presentations that we've done on this specific topic, we've gone through 2 iterations already. Go to youtube.com, search for AMA 21.1 or 21.alpha, and which is A, and it'll bring this up. It's 57 minutes, can be long, but you can fast forward, scroll through. We've got slides for it. So if you're looking for specific information on a particular topic, then you can just scroll on your cursor so you see that slide, and we'll be talking about it at that moment. All right, folks, I am going to leave this slide up. We've got our panelists on the line. I have been talking for about 5 minutes. So leads on the call, if you see a question that you can answer, let's start knocking those out. All right, I see a question from Carl asking about the MOU attachments, the phase 3 transition resources and attachments. What are you looking for here in the MOU? Good question, and I'll give you some context behind it for everybody on the call. the long pole in the tent and all of these efforts, what we're doing here, and we've talked about it in our previous calls, is what's next. So SBIR and SITR funds are congressionally funded for research and development, for you, the small business, to do research and development for the federal government. And so what is next after that research and development is what we label that transition effort. So what we're looking for in that MOU or that customer memorandum is, from the government's perspective, what's next look like for that particular effort?
Yeah, and that's a good point, Leaf. Can you hear me on here?
Loud and clear.
Okay. Yeah, Leaf hit it on the head, and that's a really big portion when we're doing some of the reviews is figuring out what is next. The customer memorandum really does a few different things. For one, the fact that you all would be skipping the phase one, really this customer memorandum captures a lot of what would have been done during that first period. So really it's showing that Air Force customer and end user why they need whatever solution it is that you're bringing. So that's really the kickoff of what the MOU does. But then it goes further than that. It goes into saying, okay, beyond that, like, who are the ones to help fund it? And then it goes into this idea of transition, saying, if you guys are successful in doing your prototyping and you solve whatever need that is, what are next steps? And you'll see that there is some kind of boilerplate material in that MOU. The more you guys can make it your own and really get your customer to kind of put down what it is exactly is going to be that transition, is going to make your proposal stronger. So that's really, that's a great opportunity for you all and your customer to kind of figure out what does next steps look like.
I see one asking about where to put the resumes for the team. So you can put that in the supporting documents section, so section 5, and they can just be in a PDF format. Yeah,
and volume 5 kind of is our catch-all. So really, anything else that you kind of want to put in, that's going to be the other place to put it, other docs.
Chris Croak, I got a question. Can we propose the same idea for multiple phase 1 topics? Okay, can you expand upon that one?
I think I know what they're asking. So yes, you can submit proposals that are essentially the same for different topics. However, there's information that you have to provide, and there's some front material questions that you answer when you're preparing your proposal. And one of them is, are you submitting proposals for essentially equivalent work? If that's the case, then you have to identify the topic, the agency, whatever, so that, and you also have to certify that none of them have been previously funded, are currently funded, or are in process of being funded. So basically that means if you've submitted an essentially equivalent proposal already and it's been selected and is in process of award, or it was selected and you're currently performing, or it was selected and performance is finished, then you can't submit that proposal. But otherwise you need to make sure that there's information in the solicitation that guides what information you need to provide. Because then once a selection is made, your company needs to inform those other organizations as soon as possible so that we're not paying for duplicative efforts.
Perfect. Yeah, spot on, Chris. Zad, I hope that answered your question. Yeah, the government is not in a position to want to pay you twice for the same work. So yeah, multiple submissions, but yeah, just keep that in mind.
Chris, we have one more question while you're already jumping on. So the foreign disclosure, do we really need a CV for every board member who has invested in a foreign company, or serves as an advisor?
Yes, it is whatever that attachment to the solicitation outlines and whatever information is in the solicitation, you must follow it. That is now a statutory requirement, and it's not just required for SBIR and STTR, it is required for all federal contracts.
Thanks, Chris.
Hey folks, we had a couple questions on where folks can find solicitation documents and where submissions need to go. In the chat, I have posted the links to those respective sites, so feel free to peruse those documents and ask further questions from there. So I wanted to make sure that you had access to those. Thanks.
So Jimmy, one for you. Can existing investment qualify as a match, or does it have to be received within 90 days of the award? Could you specify a little bit more on that for the direct phase 2 side?
Yeah, it has to be after, so it can't just be an existing. So, and then the timelines you'll see in there, there's a difference in time versus government match and versus actually getting private. So, but it can be existing.
And then I'll go ahead and answer. So Amanda asked if there's any benefit to submitting a specified S&T category over the blue sky. The answer is no. We try to kind of give you a little bit of guidelines using those generic S&T categories. But really, this is truly an open topic. And so, things under the blue sky category are equal to any specific S&T category. There's really no difference there.
Yeah, and I see there's some questions on the focus areas as well. So those focus areas are broad, right? They represent a community of interest inside the Air Force who care about a specific thing. They're broader than just these small business programs, but they can be used as a resource for you as you look to speak to the evaluation criteria directly, right? Commercialization potential, to the defense need, et cetera. And so you can use some of these tools to help formulate some of those arguments, right? And kind of when you put together your proposal. But ultimately, you don't necessarily have to be directly applicable to one of the focus areas or directly applicable to, blue sky or one of the other S&T areas in order to receive a phase 1 contract. So again, like Zoe said, it's a completely open topic. Right, if you're eligible, you're going to be evaluated just like anyone else. But we do provide some tools to help formulate some of those arguments.
There's a question just reiterating that there's a lot of topics out there still. And yeah, folks, there is, and we're speaking specifically to the open topics. So ending in CSO1, we do see that there are specific topics out there still, DC, CSO 2, 3, etc. Those are specific for identified problem sets already. Open topic is the CSO-1. So yep, keep that in mind. There are many different topics out there, but this one is ours, if that makes sense. However, for Chris on the phone, she's overseeing all of them. So keep the questions specific to the open topic. The legacy, what we call the legacy topics are still out there as well. The majority of the efforts are coming to this open topic. And so it's a little different approach on how we've been doing business with SBIR in the past. So that's the reason why we have these AMAs and you don't see it for those other topics. If you have a question specific towards anything other than 21.1 or 21.alpha CSO1, reach out to the TPOC or the POC, personal contact associated with those topics.
So Chris, I'll ask you to answer another question. Can they have foreign subcontractors as long as the R&D work is actually performed in the U.S.?
So I want to make sure I understand. So this would be a foreign company that has a U.S.-based office or subsidiary?
So Mitch Arnold asked that question. If you could clarify in the comments, then we'll come back to that one.
I'm seeing a question on here saying, is there a preference advantage to proposing submissions in collaboration with an Air Force software factory as opposed to just with the direct end clients? Really depends on, it honestly should. I mean, it really depends on what you're proposing and how the defense need is actually put out there. So if you're doing it for direct to phase 2, let's just say, if your end user is, the software factory, if they can describe exactly what it is that they're going to be using your solution for, that's great. But if it's just a regular end user, I mean, as long as it's elaborate what it is, a good transition strategy as well. That's kind of what we're looking for on that. So there's no such thing as quality of organization. We look at them all relatively the same as long as it's identified. And again, you go through all those steps on there.
Andre Watson asks, is there an easy way to schedule a call such as through open office hours to have a rolling submission separately from traditional SBIR and SITR? Good question. We do have open office hours at AFWERX in general, not specific for each of these topics, just because we feel our best approach is to go with these AMAs or Ask Me Anythings with a party mix of slide presentations walking you through the process. To get involved with the AFWERX office hours, just go to afwerx.af.mil and then scroll down to for industry, SBIR open topics, and you can join our weekly telecons there. And then we'll continue to do these Ask Me Anythings with Jimmy, Jared, Zoe, and Chris for our next topics for 21.2 and 21.b.
Hey, Lee, can you maybe talk with the folks too and let them know, in terms of information during the open window and what stuff we can and can't answer, I guess, or can't provide? Anything?
Yeah, absolutely. And Chris, chime in if I misspeak. Yep. So we're here to provide every small business out there an equal opportunity to apply and not have bias in one way or another for any of these proposals. So in essence, what we do for one company, we have to make ourselves available for any company that could potentially or has applied. So if we do specific one-on-one office hours for one firm, we have to make that available to everybody. And you've got 5 people on this call. So, and we probably have, roughly, almost 3,000 submissions for a specific topic. So I hope that makes sense. Nothing personal, folks, but we have to keep this broad stroke and how we engage with companies out there, and we have to get the okay from Chris on the call as well. So Chris, any misspeaks there?
Well, yeah, and that's exactly right. And there's only one of me versus, it's still a lot for one person. So when I get requests to meet individually with companies, I just simply don't have the bandwidth to accommodate every request that I get from every company to make sure that we're treating everyone fairly. So I typically ask folks to submit their questions in writing, and I do get back to them. So I also have sent folks, if you're looking for other resources that you can use for SBIR and STTR or for government contracting in general, you can ask about those too. I've sent information like that out to several companies. So, my focus is SBIR and STTR, but I can help you with, the larger picture of small business contracting.
Yeah, that's great. And so for folks who are brand new to this program, don't have a lot of background, haven't necessarily read this solicitation, do certainly check out those kind of primary source documents. Additionally, in our previous AMAs, AMA number 1 and number 2, we had kind of walked through a slideshow and talked through the program a little bit more in depth, right? To talk to some of the specifics of this solicitation. You can go back to the AFWERX website, refer to those, we'll see them on YouTube as well, and ultimately, you know, have additional information that you may need as you build these proposals. So those are also great references for you as well.
Hey Zoe, it looks like we have a question here for phase 1 saying, in the volume 2 tech volume, do we describe what we will do for phase 1 of what the long-term objective of the proposal is?
Yeah, so if you take a look at the slide deck templates, then that should kind of walk you through it, but it's what you're going to do in this round. We also have a transition plan slide, which will kind of speak towards, you know, what you plan to do in the future and then how that would transition to an Air Force partner. But your tech volume should be, you know, what you the proposed solution that you have for the phase 1. I also saw a question, I'm not sure if I'm understanding correctly, but comparing the slide list from BAA version 2 instructions and X20.3 tech volume template, there's a mismatch, sounds like with this time. The solicitation for this round is just that. So it's the instructions for 21.1. They won't look the same as 20.3 or other solicitations that are out there. Even other, you know, Air Force solicitations that are out there. So just, you know, read and heed the instructions for this specific round, and don't, you know, necessarily take knowledge you had from previous rounds and just apply that before reading through those instructions. So the slide deck template that we have in these instructions is indeed the slide deck template. So please use that one.
Yep, good point. And it looks like too, it says here, we got a question from Zaid saying, if we win a phase 1, can we still participate in a separate direct to phase 2 submission?
Yes.
And the answer is yes.
Jimmy, one more for you. Is there VC matching this round for direct phase 2?
There is no matching in terms of the dollar on dollar extra that we've usually seen. Now they can put private investment in there, and that it can go towards addressing some of the commercialization and that, but it's not like in past rounds where, you know, $1 potentially yielded to on the private side.
Yeah, the way it's referred to now in the solicitation is as second phase funding commitments, because we're not matching up to a certain point. It's just we have a set dollar value for the awards, and they don't have a limit on how much matching they can bring to the table. Well, and there I said matching. It's a hard habit to get out of. There's no limit on the second phase funding commitments they can bring to the table, whether government funding, government non-SBIR funding, or private investments.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah.
There are opportunities once your company is on a phase 2. There are opportunities for matching historically of what you have been used to if you've been involved with open topics before to leverage that matching aspect.
Somebody asked, do we need to get an official rejection from 20.3 before applying for 21.1 for the same effort? They haven't received a notification about their 20.3 proposal. The notification should have gone out already. So if you haven't received a notification, please email the contracting officer, which is Chris Croak, you know, associated with that solicitation, and you should be able to have that information. You want to jump in, Chris?
Yeah, actually those went out, what is today, Friday? Those went out Wednesday. The way that it works is you'll receive a notification with a link to actually log into the Air Force system to get your select or non-select letter. Every company who has not had a previous proposal with the Air Force has to create an account. So this time we received many phase 1 proposals, and at least 900 companies had never had a proposal with the Air Force before. So if you've been trying to create your account, that number of requests kind of overwhelmed the system. So it is freeing up and it should be moving along much more quickly.
That's specific for phase ones. There are still some phase two bidders not notified. So can they still submit for the next round? The answer is yes.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a great reminder to make sure that you put in information early, right? You submit your proposal as early as you can, right? I know everybody's situation is a little bit different, but to waiting till everyone's kind of crashing the system toward the end of the window here is not something that we would generally advocate for. So if you have an opportunity to submit a little earlier, please do.
And mechanically, right, it'll be, so if they put in a direct to phase 2 for 20.3, haven't heard back yet, and they put it in for 21.1, but then they find out that they won for 20.3, that'll just put them on contract for there, and then the 21.1 would not go forward, or would not be.
Right, so if it does go forward, well, what they need to do is make sure if they haven't received notification that you note, as we discussed before, on the cover sheet that you've already submitted a proposal for this effort. And then if you're selected under 20.3, you would contact the help desk. The address is in the solicitation, and let them know that your proposal has been selected so that we can inform everybody, you know, that that proposal is not to be considered for 21.1.
That's great information.
The other thing is, so yeah, if you're going to submit, and we sort of touched on this before, but if you're going to submit to consecutive solicitations, say if you don't get selected for a D2P2 and you decide based on whatever to update your proposal and resubmit it, make sure that you read the solicitation, because requirements change from cycle to cycle. You know, this open topic and the things that we're doing under it are a constantly evolving process. And so the number of slides can change, the white paper pages can change, the dollar value. So you just need to make sure that you read that solicitation. I will, if you could see me, I'm stomping my foot, because one of the biggest things that keeps proposals from going forward is because the company did not read the solicitation, and so they're missing a critical element of their proposal. So, you know, we hate to see you put this much effort into something only to not have it go forward. So that's my TED Talk for today.
No, I think that's super valuable, because let's just say for 20.3 and going into 21.1, if you were to put the exact same proposal in and say your MOU looked just a little bit different, you'll see in 21.1, MOU is now with the mandatory template that we've included on there. So if you were to submit it not using that same template, then it won't even make it past the first wicket. So yeah, I think, Chris, that's probably the biggest pro tip we can give to folks is you know, read the solicitation. It does change every time around. We're iterating actually to help you companies on there. We're trying to make it easier in many ways, or we have to put in things you know, because it's required. But yes, if you are going to resubmit, just make sure that it's in line with what's changed.
Chris, we'll go back to the foreign subcontractor question. So if the subcontractor is in a foreign location, but they're only providing parts, not R&D, and the R&D work is being performed in the United States, is that okay?
Well, so what the solicitation says about that, and what the SBA SBIR and STTR policy directive says about that, is that it is preferred that you use equipment, materials, subcontractors, etc., from the United States. If you are proposing to buy material, supplies, whatever, from a foreign source, you need to include information that says why you're buying it from that source, and then you have to request a deviation from the contracting officer. And that would not be me, that would be whoever is assigned to your proposal if it's selected for award. And I'll give you, for instance, and this was many moons ago, and I'm going to make up whatever the name of the technical thing was, but a company came in and they wanted to buy something from Russia, which at that time was kind of raised eyebrows. So we went back to them and asked for justification. Well, it turns out it's the only place in the world where this thing was manufactured. So, you know, we gave the deviation. But if you have a source that's in the United States that you can find, you need to buy your material from them. If you're not going to do that, then you need to provide justification for why you're not.
Thanks, Chris.
Because the whole purpose of this program is to stimulate the American economy for small businesses. And we also want to contribute to that by using all the elements of the program from the US when we can.
Got a question here saying, is the commercialization volume 4 not needed in the open topics proposal? That was how it was previously, but if you look in the solicitation now, it is required.
Chris, along those lines, you haven't have you heard from DSIP that the company commercialization report is no longer an issue?
So in 21.1, the instructions did change because the module in DSIP wasn't working. And it's still not, but they actually have an alternate system that the contractors need to go in, fill out the information, and then save a copy and attach it to their proposal. There's full up instructions in the solicitation.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, folks, we understand that you might be awaiting feedback from 20.3 and we're in the window for 21.1. Odds are I would not expect feedback from 20.3 prior to the solicitation closing for 21.1, just to be honest with you folks and transparent. So don't wait on feedback before resubmitting if you plan to submit for 21.1.
It looks like we got is a letter of support a form or just PDF. Most folks just put it as a PDF in there. And you can attach it to the volume 5 other.
Yeah, we get a lot of questions on the funding agreement certification. When is it due? Good question, Chandler. It's due before you can get a contract. So if we have it signed, sealed, delivered prior to you receiving a contract, great. If not, you expect a contracting officer to reach out to you should you be selected. And a good question, folks. How it works from our perspective is you submit a proposal, then we review it. If it's technically selected, it'll move on for contracting review. And so all that being said, please be on your emails. Make sure double check, triple check your email contact information before you hit submit of your proposal in DSIP. Because if we're getting crickets when we're trying to reach out to you or your CO, it's just causing a lot of bandwidth. And like Chris said earlier, volume is our biggest enemy right now. And we don't have the time to ensure and cross-check your contact information. So disclaimer there, check your stuff.
Yeah, I think that feeds into one of the questions here in terms of what are some common characteristics of successful proposals. We touched on a couple of them already, right? Like Jimmy said, one of the first things we got to do is read the solicitation, right? I know they probably look very similar going from cycle to cycle, but there are things that change, right? Whether it's the commercialization report or the requirements for documents or a variety of other things. But step one is reading and understanding that solicitation itself. So that's step number one. Step number two is be very frank and upfront with us, right? You know, we are very explicit in the solicitation document on what we evaluate or how we evaluate your proposals, what we evaluate them against, kind of what we're looking for. And so speak to those points directly, right? You know, make a, you know, we're looking for a clear and concise way, kind of argument for why you are fulfilling, you know, the things that we're looking for in that solicitation. You know, there are some things that we don't have decision space on, right? Eligibility questions, and you know, if you're not a qualifying small business, you're not going to be eligible for award, right? That's not something that we decide. It's an eligibility question that has a box that has to be checked. And so you know, eligibility and some of the non-negotiables, if you will, in the programs themselves are really important as well. So for STTR is a great example, right? If you submit a wonderful proposal, but you don't allocate at least or between 30 and 60% to a single qualifying research institution, right? You're not going to be able to receive a contract. And so there's some kind of baseline qualifications, some baseline things that we have to take care of in order to be considered. Above and beyond that, like we said, you know, you can speak very clearly and concisely to those evaluation criteria for phase 1 or phase 2, whichever one that you're applying for, and just be very overt about how you're providing value to the folks in the defense marketplace, right? And how you're better than the current alternative. So again, those evaluation criteria are in the solicitation for each individual program. So please do take a look at that. And but we wanted to at least kind of talk through some of those kind of baseline expectations from our end. Thanks.
Jared, I think those are great points. And just to pile on a little bit, at least for direct to phase 2, the quickest thing we see for people to not even make it past the first is just not having an MOU, you know, or things around the MOU are probably some of the easiest ways to disqualify. So really, if you're looking to go direct to phase 2, just realize that that's a very important document. In this round, make sure you're using the correct template first off, because that's now a mandatory. But then beyond that, you know, really it's going to make sure that you get the 2 signatures, and that's going to be both from your customer and your end user. So that needs to really be filled out on that. So those are the things really that will trip you up. Alongside that are some of the things Jared's already mentioned. Pitch deck, you know, we need to have that. If we don't see it, then it could be an amazing proposal, and it's just some of these smaller things that are required that hurt you, not having the volume 2. So really in that, all I can stress is look through the solicitation, see what says mandatory on that, and just make sure that is at least the first thing you guys knock out on that. And you know, and another thing too is we'll get folks that'll put it in and say, hey, you know, the MOU it's being routed, it's being worked, but we still want to submit during that. I say, you know, for us, if we don't see the signature, we don't see the signature. So in that, we can only see what we're working with currently. So my thing, or to you all, is say you're still waiting that in 21.1, and it doesn't happen during that time. I would say don't submit, because it's going to be disqualified for not having that signature that's required. Just wait till 21.2. And then you can submit everything, because our evaluators are only going to see what's in front of us. That's it.
Yeah, and I just want to add one thing to that. This is Chris. A lot of times I will get offers coming in who have submitted their proposals without the signed MOU, and they want me to accept a copy of it directly after the solicitation has closed. I cannot accept any proposal documentation, number 1, after the solicitation has closed, and number 2, outside of DSIP. Proposal submission has to take place through DSIP, because they gather a lot of information from what you submit for reporting to Congress. It's also so the OSD can track a lot of elements for the program, because Air Force is not actually considered the agency for the SBIR STTR program. It's DOD. and we're one of 11 components under that solicitation, even though we're able to issue our own. So that was a very good point. If you don't have that signed MOU, do not bother submitting your proposal, because it's going to be disqualified without consideration, without any evaluation. And so you'll have done all that work for nothing.
Great point. Yeah, just wait for the 3 months till the next solicitation, and just put it in then. You know, it's better to have everything just looking right before you submit it than just trying to pass it through. And we've seen other things too, where people try to pass letters of support as the MOU, and you'll see in there, it's very specific what an MOU is. And to Carl on the questions, MOU template, okay to use Air Force customer letterhead rather than big Air Force letterhead. Use whatever is in the template. That's what we say. So it shouldn't deviate from any of that look. Use that. That's what's provided. Keep it standardized.
All right. I did see a question with regards to SBIR and STTR, and if there's what kind of some of the differences there. So when it comes to the research institution, with STTR, that's a mandatory part of the program. So in any STTR proposal, you have to come to the table with a relationship already in place with a qualifying research institution. And that qualifying research institution should consist of between 30 and 60% of your overall proposal. Proposal value, right? And that is to say they have to be doing between 30 and 60% of the work on your proposal. And SBIR has slightly different percentages, but the short answer there is that they do not require a subcontractor, a research institution, for SBIR contracts. So there's kind of one of the big differences in the two programs themselves. In terms of the technology rights, there is updated technology rights for the SBIR program, but you can read about both in the solicitations themselves. You know, I don't know, Chris, you can add on here, but I would want to make sure that the best verbiage itself is in the solicitation.
Yes, actually, the only direction that you should use to prepare your proposals is the solicitation. Even if you hear something on here and the solicitation differs, follow the solicitation. We're human, we make mistakes. These are massive solicitations, and you know, on the spur of the moment, somebody might say the wrong thing. Now you can come back and ask me about it if you find a disconnect, but follow the solicitation, because that is what we're going to go to make sure that you responded to what we put out there. So, you know, if you tell us, oh, well, but so-and-so told me I could do this. Well, so-and-so is not the contracting officer. I am. And I capture in the solicitation what the requirements folks tell me they need. So it is the be all and end all.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So I think hopefully we answered that question there on the some of the differences in the research institution and the technology rights, at least in general terms.
Chris, we got a request from the audience to put this foreign national question to bed. They want to confirm that they only need to disclose and complete the addendum for personnel that are involved with the phase 2 effort. They don't have to disclose everybody in the company that may be a dual citizen. Can you confirm?
No, it would only be whoever's assigned to the team.
Thank you. All right. Amanda, good question. Folks, we would love to tell you how many we are expecting to award, but we're not. So legally, the Air Force does not have to award any of the proposals that are submitted. We intend to award as many as we can with the funds that are available to us. That's been our MO since we started this thing. but we just can't predict the future, and therefore I can't tell you how many we're expecting to award. Well, folks, it looks like the questions are starting to wind down. Is there another AMA next Friday? Good question. No, Carl, we are done. This is it. Please check out our previously recorded. They're called AMAs, but we spend a lot more time walking you through the process, expanding upon the differences between SBIR, STTR, talking about data rights, you name it. We laid out the 80% solution of all the questions that we get asked throughout these solicitation periods that are open. So check those out if you have any specific questions. Chris will tell you, everybody on here will tell you, if it's in the solicitation, then go by what's in the solicitation. The instructions are out there for a reason. They counter anything that you might hear from someone else that has done SBIR in the past. Just go by the instructions and you can't go wrong. Some key notes to take away: if you have never done business with the federal government before, go in there and start registering for the required systems and platforms that we have to have you registered in to even give you a contract. So SAMs, KH, DUNS, start knocking that out. It doesn't cost you an arm and a leg. And if you have never built a proposal before, guess what? You still have time. It takes a couple cups of coffee or some Monsters, whatever your beverage of choice is. 25 slides for a phase 1, simple, breezy. And if you're already ready to trial and get that phase 2 going, then you should be set up already for that direct phase 2 submission. There's a lot of questions outside of SBIR that we were seeing today, basically like the transition plans, etc. That's what phase 1s are for, folks. Come on in, test the water. We think the water's warm. You'll like it for 3 months. We'll walk you through the process. We'll introduce you to stakeholders. We'll answer all those ITAR related questions and that were coming up. We'll help you out there. So that's what phase 1s are for. If you're in pre-release, it's probably the best choice for you to go for that STTR route, partner with that RI or nonprofit organization. If you got that commercial solution, then come on in and apply for SBIR phase 1. I'm looking at parting shots. Do I see anything else that I've missed? Program managers for the chat, but we're getting pretty slow here. I recommend we cut it off here in about 2 mics.
Sounds good. Question was, when a declined phase 2 proposal submitted, should that info be explicitly declared in the direct to phase 2 proposal? What the differences are, etc. If you didn't get awarded the direct to phase 2 or the phase 2, whichever way you go in, just know it when you do submit for the next go around, it will be looked at by different eyes. We do expect that you would make changes to it, right, to address whatever the issues or shortcomings were from that previous round, but you don't necessarily need to explicitly call it out. Hopefully the changes will already be in that proposal that you submit, so that when the reviewers, it'll be a new set of 3 folks that'll be looking at it from, again, the commercialization, defense need, and technology side of the house. Hopefully whatever from your feedback or whatever those changes need to be made, hopefully were made, and it's that. So hard and fast, no, you don't need to.
Yeah, I think you saw a couple questions on what you're proposing against for this right here. So I'm going to speak for the phase 1s. You know, as we talk through this, we talk about kind of the process, and that there's, you know, there seems to be a pipeline of sorts from phase 1 to phase 2. You know, you may have heard of StratFi and TACFi later on, right? You're only submitting a proposal to an individual phase. So if you're looking at a phase 1, whether that be SBIR or STTR, right, you're going to be looking at a 3-month 50K effort, right? You can allude to what can happen later on, you know, as part of as part of the proposal. But what we're looking for most specifically is this period of this phase 1 period, right? For the direct to phase 2, certainly, you're looking just at that phase 2 period as well. So, you know, the funding associated with it, the work plan, et cetera, needs to speak to those things specifically. Over.
All right, folks, we're going to give you 10 minutes back to your Friday. I got a OC question from Rami. We didn't get feedback yet. What's the most common reasons for rejections? It's not rejection, it's non-select. And you know, if you look at the solicitation, there's 3 criteria. They're weighted equally coming up. So if you miss the mark on one of those, they are getting more competitive. Just like Chris mentioned, there's a lot of proposals coming in. So ensure you, if you fall short on any of those criteria, then that's what you want to expand upon. But from our team to yours, thank you for dialing in. We had quite a few people join this AMA number 3. It will be recorded. It'll be posted. I'm going to open the floor up to any of the PMs if they want some parting shots, some mini lessons learned. Starting, we'll do it in reverse order. Your Honor, Chris Croak, anything to share before we close the door?
No, I don't think so. Everybody have a good weekend.
Awesome. Jared?
Hey, thanks for being here. Thanks for making time on your Friday afternoon to talk to us. You know, one of the coolest parts about these programs are being able to interact with you all specifically, answer questions, make sure that you have all the information you need. You know, you won't find a team who cares more about, you know, bringing you into the fold and providing options to our warfighters more than the folks on the phone here. So, you know, we're really excited to be working with you, right? And we look forward to seeing your proposals.
Jimmy, anything to share?
Echo the same thing as Jared, and you know, just good luck putting in for the 21.1 direct-to-phase 2s.
Zoe?
Yeah, our team is excited for this round and for the technologies we'll be able to see from you all and bring into the Air Force. So thanks so much for spending time with us today and for taking your time to put together proposals, you know, to apply for the solicitation. It's for you and it's for us. We really, you know, we can't do this without you, and we can't continue to elevate, you know, our technology game without you all. So thank you, and we'll hopefully be talking to you soon.
I'm echoing what everybody else said. Thank you. Thank you for taking time. Thank you for putting towards a proposal to be submitted. We can't transition that technology that doesn't come to our dinner table. So please submit a proposal. If you think you have any technology that we can benefit from, we probably could. So we're relying on you, the experts on this call, to keep this network effect going. Again, from our team to yours, thanks for participating. Thanks in advance. And we look forward to seeing you soon. Have a good day and a weekend.